Mix TV presents the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show. Presented by Check Into Cash, your one-stop money shop. Also by Hardees. Hardees taste like America. Now it's time for your local sports highlights and interviews with your host, Ryan Lovelace.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and I'll be the host for the sports show. For our first episode, since we didn't have any scores to report, we decided we'd do something special. So we visited 9 local high school football coaches to get the preseason storylines from those programs. With that being said, our first stop was at Cleveland High School, where we visited with head coach Marty Wheeler. Welcome to the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. I'm Ryan Lovelace here at Cleveland High School, home of the Blue Raiders, here with head football coach Marty Wheeler. Coach, last season you ended your season with a few big wins, and then you went to powerhouse Dobbins-Bennett and played a game that was way closer than what anybody expected. How has your team built off that momentum and is using it towards this season?
Well, first off, I think it was definitely a game where we performed really well in a lot of areas in the game. We didn't do as well as we would like to have done. Defensively in the second half, we couldn't get a stop in the second half, and ultimately that was the reason why we came up short. But I think the biggest thing was that us being able to take that performance and then go into the offseason, and for the first time, Ryan, since I've been here, we got to go through an actual full offseason right in the weight room where, these guys have. That was one of the things that gave us problems throughout the years is the lack of strength and the lack of physicalness that we didn't play with because we weren't capable of playing with it. Now that we've been in the weight room, we're much stronger this year. And that's no longer an excuse for us. So we're excited about getting out there, seeing what a hard off-season and the work that these guys have put in. We want to see it pay off, and we got to translate that to the football field.
Yes, sir. So last season you lost 9 seniors who graduated, all of whom contributed greatly to this program through their 4 years here. Who has stepped up to fill the gaps in leadership and on the football field of those 9 seniors?
Well, I think it's a combination of several different guys. We got some guys that are going to be seniors this year that have been a really close-knit group, I think, even since middle school. And so you got guys like, Tito Boyd, Tate O'Brien, that lead. Nick Nicodemus is probably more a vocal guy than those two guys. Tate and Tito are more by example type guys, And there's other guys, up front. I mean, most of them, this team here, is hard to get them to talk when you need them to talk, but when they don't need to talk, they talk all the time. So, I mean, it's a lot of guys that I think try to lead by example. But, this is the 3rd year for our program since I've been here. These guys have been with us since the beginning. And so I think it's been a combination of our entire senior class has stepped up so far. Now we're about to put pads on, and it's about to get a little warmer than it's been being. And so that's when we're really going to find out who the leaders are.
So you mentioned the senior class led by returning All-State athlete Destin Thomas. How special can this senior class be, not just this season, but for Cleveland football when it comes to culture?
Sure. I mean, they have the sky's the limit for this group, I believe. And we talk about that all the time. I think right now the biggest thing we got to do is believe. We've put the work in so far. We've got some guys that have performed well, in game situations that are back, Destin being one of them. I can go down the list. Those guys I just named, Tito Boyd and Tate O'Brien, are going to be 3-year starters. Nicodemus is a returning starter. You got guys like Bo Baker, Reed Malone, both Hallman brothers, and you can go down the list. Jonathan Herrales, another guy who leads by example, but hardly ever talks. Those guys all have an opportunity to leave their mark on this football program. But probably the key for us is going to be just number 1, believing in ourselves, and 2, staying healthy.
So lastly, a new schedule this year sees the return of the Walker Valley rivalry, and also every year it's Bradley. You guys have lost 6 straight versus Bradley. How is this team preparing mentally for those rivalry games?
Well, I mean, right now what we're trying to do is we're going one day at a time. It goes back to, I think right now the biggest thing is that we're not able to, we haven't even put pads on yet. So from a competition standpoint, it's hard to compete against other teams without pads on. The 7-on-7 stuff to me is that's not realistic football. Okay, we don't have folks out there rushing each other, and there's not the games are one up front anyway on both sides of the ball. So Right now, it would not make a whole lot of sense to me to be concerned about anybody but us, And I think at the end of the day, we're excited about getting Walker Valley back on the schedule. We're excited about having both our county schools being on our schedule again as rivals. I think it's good for our county. I think it's good for our program, and so we're excited about that. But at the end of the day, right now, our biggest focus is on us, and when the time comes, we'll turn our focus to them.
This has been Ryan Lovelace here with head coach Marty Wheeler on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Now we'll send it across town to visit with Coach Damon Floyd over at Bradley Central. I'm Ryan Lovelace here at Bradley Central, home of the Bears, here with head coach Damon Floyd. Now, Coach, last season you guys lost in the second round of the state playoffs, but you rattled off 8 wins, your most since 2017. How do you build off those successes you had last season?
Well, I think we have a lot of guys coming back that have experience so that, they can kind of feed off that. But really, we take each year different. Last year was last year, and we've moved on. Obviously, we have a lot of pieces that we have to replace. So we're looking for some guys to step up. But we do have some experience in a lot of areas. So it's something to build off of. And, you can teach and learn off some of those moments from last year. But really, it's a new year, and we're really just looking to the future.
So last season you had Region 2 offensive MVP Javon Burke. You also had offensive coordinator Matt Moody. Both have now moved on. How do you fill those holes offensively, and how has your offense adapted with a new offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I'll start with Coach Moody first. I'm happy for him because that's what he wanted. That was one of his goals, is to be a head coach, and he gets that opportunity this year at McMinn Central. And we think he'll do great things. Obviously, we miss him, but we knew this was coming. We knew he was going to be a head coach one day, so we had a plan in place. Todd Burkhart will be the new offensive coordinator. And so when Coach Moody did get a head coaching job, we already knew that Coach Burkhart would be the OC. So, scheme-wise, we may call some things some different ways, but we have a philosophy here that we believe in, and, we feel like it's worked in the past. So we're still going to do what we do and be who we are. So, and Coach Burkhart has great experience of being an offensive coordinator. He's put up big numbers at some other schools, so hopefully he can continue that. Javon, I don't know if you replace a kid like Javon. Yeah. He was a stud. He was tough. He was fast. He was everything you want in a not only a football player, but especially a running back. And, we do have Jackson Wilson back, who's just a sophomore. He got a little dinged up last year, but he got a lot of minutes as a freshman. He's got a lot of ability. He's different than Javon, but he does have good size. He's got good speed. So, we hope to keep him healthy. And what will help him is, 5 starting offensive linemen back. So we do feel fortunate there. And I'm sorry, 4 of the 5 starters back. So a lot of experience up front. And, quarterback Aiden McClary can kind of take some things off Jackson as well. But, it's really in high school football, you have one injury, it can change a lot. Yeah. So as long as that group stays healthy, we feel good about it.
Yeah. So, obviously, being at Bradley, you have to talk Bradley Walker and Bradley Cleveland. Both games, you have 6-game win streaks against each Walker Valley and Cleveland. Is this year 7? Are you going to win 7 straight versus both of them? How's this team preparing for that?
We don't ever think about the numbers. If you wouldn't have said it, I couldn't have told you if you'd have asked me how many times we've beaten them. But like I said, each year's different. I'm going to give you the coach's cliche, but it's truth. We worry about one day at a time. Those are obviously your rival games are games that you look at and you circle on your schedule. I'm not going to lie about that, but those games are obviously very important to us. But, our first game's Brainerd, and we have some scrimmages and some 7-on-7s. So we're focused on Bradley right now. We're not real worried about anybody else on our schedule. We've got a lot to fix in a short amount of time. We play in 38 days, so we're just worried about the Bears right now and trying to get us, where we need to be.
So, sort of switching gears, recently the Bradley County School Board approved new turf here at Bear Stadium. So how's the construction going with that, and when do you guys expect to be able to play on that field?
Well, first, we're very thankful for the Board of Education and, Dr. Linda Cash for giving us that opportunity. Athletics is part of the education process, and we're just happy to be at a place where athletics are important, and they feel the same way. So it'll be a first-class field that we get to play on, and it's going to look really good. And we've always felt like we have the best venue in the state, of Tennessee for high school football with our stadium sitting down in that bowl, and then you add turf in, it's going to be pretty special for us. So we're very excited.
All right, well, thank you, Coach. This has been head coach of the Bradley Central Bears, Damon Floyd, on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Now we'll send it to the other end of the county to visit with Coach Akins over at Walker Valley. Ryan Lovelace here at Walker Valley High School, home of the Mustangs. I'm joined by head football coach Drew Akins. Now, Coach, 2018, you guys went 0-10. 19, you had 4 wins. And last season, you guys went 8-3, losing in the second round of the state playoffs. What has been the key to the revival of this program?
Yeah, I think the big things that we've done as a program is we've kind of changed the culture. We've made culture a real big part of what we're doing. So, we try to enforce the little things in the locker room, in the hallways. And I believe that when you do the little things in those places, that it trickles over into every part of your life. So, being able to do those things and being able to make sure our kids are doing right in all places, and it trickles over to the football field. And, we've had great leadership. Last year we had great seniors. This year we have great seniors. And there's just an excitement around our program that we want to be successful. And we've set goals to be successful. We got great coaching staff that's pressing our kids to a standard. And when you do those things, it's going to turn into wins. We don't talk much about winning and losing. We talk about how to win and lose every day. And when we do the things the right way, it turns into wins.
So last year, 2 tough regular season losses, one of them by 3 to Bradley here. So this season, you'll add Cleveland to the schedule for the first time since 18. How is this team preparing for those 2 rivalry games?
Yeah, I think it's just like we just talked about. We're preparing one day at a time and just making sure that everything that we do, we have our goals in mind. We have goals that we set, with Ray County. Ray County's in our region, so it's a really big game for us that we came up short last year. We were in control, and at the end, we kind of turned to our old self, and it cost us a game. So talking about the things that it takes to win those kind of games, and then preparing physically. I think our kids have done a great job showing up all summer. We've had 90 to 100 kids every single day. We're lifting, we're running, we're practicing. So we're doing a lot of things to prepare, not only for those 2 games, which obviously are important games, but, preparing for game 1, which is, Notre Dame comes in here. They're going to be ready to win against a bigger program. And that's one of those staple games for them that we have to make sure that we're prepared for their energy.
So you mentioned game 1. We're still a while away from that day, but so far this summer, who has stood out to you as a name to watch or names to watch this season?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of good things from Spencer Jackson. He's our leader on offense and defense, really. He's going to play safety for us. He made a lot of plays last year, has played a lot of football for us over his 4 years here. And I really see him being somebody that sticks out. I think a name that could come kind of out of the blue is Cade Charda. I think Cade Charda is somebody that you're going to see at receiver that's going to make a lot of explosive plays and do a lot of big things for us. And we got several kids all over the field. Our all-state linebacker, Eli Denton, from last year. Eli's picked up right where he left off. He's all over the football. Every time there's a football, he's tackling it. So, we're really excited where Eli is. Those 3 guys are going to be a big impact. But, man, we got really 30 to 40 kids on both sides of the ball that are really going to impact us on Friday nights.
So this has been head coach of the Walker Valley Mustangs, Drew Akins, here on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Now we'll send it all the way over to Oowah to visit with newly hired head coach James Manning.
Did you wake up craving a made-from-scratch biscuit topped with tender prime rib and a fried egg? How about now? The new prime rib and fried egg biscuit at Hardees. Feed your happiness.
You're watching the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash and Hardees. Now back to your host, Ryan Lovelace.
Ryan Lovelace here at Oowah High School, home of the Owls, joined by newly hired head coach James Manning. Coach, nearly 2 weeks ago at the start of dead period, you were preparing for your season as the assistant coach at Tyner under former Oowah head coach Scott Chandler, and now you're the head coach here where you played football nearly 10 years ago. What are your emotions and how excited are you to return to your alma mater as the head football coach?
I'm pretty excited. I owe a lot to this place. When you're going through about 14 to 18 years old, you go through a lot of changes, and I did a lot of that in this building. So the chance to continue to provide that, hopefully a good role model for our kids, now not just in football, but hopefully in wrestling and track and basketball and other sports that coaches provide. The opportunity to do that is just big time for me. To owe a lot to this school. It's my turn to give back.
So for these athletes, this is a third head coach they've seen in about a year and a half span. So what was your message to the team, and what kind of culture are you trying to build here?
Well, I told them, football is a good example for life. As you get older and you go through different jobs, you're gonna have a lot of different bosses and a lot of different times, and your job is to do your job and do it the best that you can. So no matter what it is or what the person above you is telling you, you just have to do that and do it correctly and do it the best you can. Nick Saban's got that story about the street sweeper. He said, if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can be. Yeah. So that's just kind of what I've told them is to show up every day, work hard, and play hard and play fast.
So this season, Oowah High School will return to Region 4 5A for the first time since the 2015 season. And you know it, you played in 5A when you were here. Oowah was very successful, multiple 10-win seasons before the transition to 6A. And Oowah's not found the same success at 6A. What do you think this transition back down to 5A means for this team?
Well, part of the problem has been, we've been playing at 6A with 5A numbers. Yeah. When they redid the reclassifications, we had jumped up in enrollment to the 6A level, and then a year later, we're back down. So last year we were playing schools like Maryville and the Bradley Centrals and Cleveland's with 18, 19, 2,000 kids, and we're sitting at 1,200, 1,300. Yeah. So we just that became the problem is we'd compete for a little while and then we just didn't have the depth to continue to go. So hopefully at the 5A level, we're playing schools with similar enrollment and we can get some kids back out to play that maybe didn't that maybe gave it up or whatever. So our numbers will get a little better and we can push each other in the locker room and the weight room and on the field and hopefully we'll start to compete.
So as head coach, you haven't been here long, but you're very familiar with this program. Who are some players or what group of players should we watch out for this season?
So we should be pretty senior heavy. Last 2 years we've had about 12 seniors, which hurts us. We've had some down years as far as senior numbers, but we should be back up in the low 20s, which isn't great, but it's better than obviously what we want or what we've been. So the senior class I'm expecting to step up because they've played a bunch in the last 2 or 3 years. So we should have some experienced seniors. Like Jaden Carmichael and Christian Doty, Dawson Jones, and I'm going to leave some out, Troy Berrien. It'd be impossible for me to name. Nick Sullivan's one. He's going to end up playing both ways for us. And then some of our juniors we got some juniors and sophomores like Antonio Hunter and A.J. Robinson. They'll have to play a bunch for us this year. So those are just a couple. Obviously I'm going to leave some out, but we really just need everybody to step up and do their job.
Thank you, sir. This has been head coach of the Oowah Owls, James Manning, on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. I'm Ryan Lovelace here at McMinn Central, home of the Chargers, here with recently hired head football coach Matt Mooney. Now, Coach, you were hired last May. How's the transition been, and how excited were you to take a position as head coach?
Yeah, well, I tell you, first of all, I was extremely excited. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I really appreciate Mr. Gilbert and Coach Massengill reaching out and giving me this opportunity. But the transition so far, everything's kind of moving so fast. The hire was a little bit later on in June, so we had 2 weeks with the team, and then we were right into dead period. So, we're just moving really fast, trying to get in as much as we can get in. We play in about a month now, so a lot of things to do, not a lot of time to do it in.
Yeah. So you came here from a very successful Bradley Central program, but this program here at McMinn Central's not found the same success. Only 7 wins in the past 4 seasons. Your last winning season was 2012. What are your plans to bring some success back to this McMinn Central program?
I think first and foremost, the support system is here and it's intact. Everything that a program needs to be successful, I think, is here. The community's wanting this program to do really good things, and up to this point, they've been really, really supportive and involved in anything that we've needed. There's a lot of people that reach out and help, so I think that's number one. But I think also that there's a really good group here right now. Really good group of athletes. We've got a great staff. And the people here on campus, everybody's kind of working towards the same goal. So we'll see what happens.
So welcome to McMinn Central, first week of the season. Do you play at McMinn County?
No, we're here.
So
yeah,
you'll host your rival
McMinn
County. So how are you preparing a team to open with a very emotional rivalry game?
I think that really at this point it doesn't matter who you play first. Coming off of last season with all the stuff going on with COVID, I think that everybody really is just excited to play football again with no restrictions. We're going to be jam-packed in here on that first Friday night, so it should be exciting.
Yeah. So you've mentioned you've only seen about 2.5 weeks of this team, But what group of players have stood out to you not only on the field but in the locker room, in the weight room? Like, who are some names to watch out for?
Okay, obviously, Novice Cox is a kid that's been playing quarterback for us. He's a returner from last year, but he's had a pretty good offseason up to this point. Novice is one of those guys that's a natural leader. I've spent probably most of my time with him right now because he's playing quarterback for us. So he's a guy that kind of sticks out. But honestly, we've got several guys that are coming out that were baseball players and basketball players that haven't played in the past. So, I'm still in the process of trying to learn everybody's name and stuff like that. So up to this point, we've had guys that have really worked hard, and really the whole team has. I think that everybody around here is hungry to be successful and try to turn this thing around. So it's been a good off season up to this point.
Well, thank you. This has been head coach Matt Moody of the McMinn Central Chargers on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Now we'll send it to another rival of these Chargers and head to Meigs County. Ryan Lovelace here at Meigs County, home of the Tigers, here with head football coach Jason Fitzgerald. Coach, last season you guys went 14-1. You didn't lose until the state championship game. Over the past 5 years, you guys have been 62-7. What has the secret to success been here at Meigs County?
I don't know that you can say it's just one thing. Our administration, our community had really good football players, really good coaching staff. So it's just a combination. Everything has come together for what you need to be a good football program, and our kids have bought in, and it goes back to the kids and them buying in and playing hard, and we've had some talented kids, and as coach say, sometimes coaching's overrated. Good football players make good teams, and we've had some good football players in the past 5 years.
So I mentioned you guys lost in the state championship game last year. That was your second straight year losing in the state championship game. How is this team using those two losses as momentum and motivation for this season?
I think what we've learned the last 3 years is how to win. So that's, like you say, the last 5 we've won 62 games. These players understand what it takes. We've been on the biggest stage the last 2 years, and it just kind of gnaws at you not to get that gold ball, to come home with 2 silver balls. We've been blessed because of that. But these kids, we've been to semifinals, state finals. They want to get back there and win it this time. And, they've worked hard this summer. We've got some good senior leadership, and I'm just proud of what they've done this summer.
And you mentioned earlier the stars you've had come through Meigs County High School. Last year, Will Meadows, Mr. Football finalist, along with 2 other football players who were also on the All-State team with him. How has this team stepped up to fill those gaps, not only on the field, but in the locker room?
Well, we've got some good leadership with our quarterback, Logan Carroll, coming back, and Huckabee being back at wide receiver and DB, and Ben Smith being a leader, and Austin Andrews up front. I could just go on down. We've got more seniors that have been there, so they stepped up. Now, when you talk about replacing Will was a great running back. And the bad thing is the guy that was going to replace him broke both legs this summer, so he's probably not going to be back till the middle of the season. But we've got some kids that are working hard that's going to step up. It's going to be a little bit by committee, where we knew we were giving it to Will. There'll be 2, 3, 4 kids that have to run the football this year. What Will did, you're not going to replace that. But we've got kids that we think can step up. It's kind of like when Swofford left. Everybody said, well, what are you going to do when Swofford left? And Logan did a great job stepping up last year. We don't want these kids to be Will. Will was a special player and did special things. We want the young men that are going to step up and carry the football just to be themselves and do the best that they can for us.
So sort of switching gears, unlike a lot of other coaches and schools I've been to on this show, you guys are much smaller to a very tight-knit community that's been through a lot recently. And how much does this football team just mean to this community in general when it comes to bringing them together?
Well, that's one thing I like about this community. It's an old-school community, and everybody inside the borders here bleeds orange and black, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, doesn't matter what sport it is. They like their Tigers, they like their sports, and community rallies around whichever team's playing on Friday night or during the week. And it's just great to see that, see the pride and the community spirit that's here.
Well, thank you, Coach. This has been head coach of the Meigs County Tigers, Jason Fitzgerald, on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Now let's send it all the way down to Chattanooga to visit with head coach Connor at Silverdale. Ryan Lovelace here at Silverdale Baptist Academy, home of the Seahawks, here with head football coach Mike Connor. Coach, last season you guys went 5-6 and lost in the first round of the playoffs. How are you preparing this football team to have their first winning season since 2016?
That's a great question. Getting to the playoffs last year was huge for our program, first time in 5 years. The process that we went through to get there was our mission of protecting, of being better today than we were yesterday and being better tomorrow than we are today. So that's the process that we've laid out. Our promised land is to try to get to a place where the story about Silverdale football is about winning. And not so much about the scoreboard, but about winning beyond the lines of the football field. So we're trying to leave a lasting legacy and an impacting legacy beyond the lines of the football field. And so our process is we're going to focus on us being better each and every day.
So you mentioned last year your first time in the playoffs in a while. You lost to CAP, the eventual state champions. How have you guys used not only getting to the playoffs, but losing, sort of a heartbreak, as motivation for this season?
Yeah, CPA is probably the school in the state of Tennessee. You know, they've got the bullseye on their back, and the reason that they won the state championship is because of the ingredients of their team in terms of the culture. And so we use that to say, hey, that's where we want to be, but it wasn't the scoreboard that gave them all that. It was their process of how they played. And so we're just saying, hey, that's the example. We want to be that example for the other teams as they come compete against us.
So offensively for you guys, Connor DeLashschmidt and Turner Junkins were both very impactful last year on the offensive side of the ball. How good have these guys been this summer?
Well, Connor has been on this circuit of visiting colleges. I mean, he's got a lot of interest out for him. He's continued to improve. Turner's also, he's a multi-sport athlete, so he's playing a lot of baseball. He's already been, committed to Middle Tennessee. So we haven't seen him a ton this summer because they're so doggone good in other areas of their life. So our expectation is they're going to come back in and contribute at a higher level than they did last year, along with Cam Mullins, Cam Bowen, Clay Connor, Brett Rogers, and obviously our stonecoaters up front. Kyle Shoemaker, Sam, I can't remember Sam's name. Sam Thedford and Rylan Cobb. Those guys are going to get things done up front.
Yeah. So, Coach, it was great to interview you. I've been Ryan Lovelace here at Silverdale Baptist Academy with head coach Mike Connor on the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash. Thank you guys for watching our high school football preview special.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Southeast Tennessee Sports Show presented by Check Into Cash and Hardees. We will see you back here next week.